from On3 Sports. It's America's College Football Insider, Brett McMurphy. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, guys. How you doing?
We're doing great. Thank you very much for jumping on with us. I know it was just the first game, but how important was Farmageddon and that outcome, considering Iowa State and Kansas State? They were two of the favorites, if not the two teams predicted to meet in the Big 12 title game.
Yeah, you're right. The Big 12 got rid of the preseason media poll, so I asked each of the 16 coaches to anonymously predict what two teams they thought would meet in the championship game, and Iowa State and Kansas State received the most votes. Actually, Kansas State received the most votes to win the title, so certainly Kansas State's not eliminated by any means, but it's huge for Iowa State. And, certainly puts them a leg up now. And, of course, any tiebreakers down the road, they have that head-to-head. But I thought it was very impressive. Everyone knows or should know how good Rocco Beck is at quarterback. He certainly proved that. And, they have a big game against Iowa coming up. If Iowa State can beat that, certainly they could, creep up the rankings. And I think the biggest thing for the Big 12 is no matter who the top team is or the top two teams are, for the sake of the Big 12, hopefully they can distance themselves from the rest of the conference because, look, I think we're going to have a logjam at the top of the conference. And when I say the top of the conference, I mean the top 14 or 15 teams.
Right.
That's how deep it is. So if the Big 12 wants to get two in the college football playoff, they need whoever those top two teams are to get the double-digit wins and separate from the rest of the pack. Because if not, I'm afraid, like last year, the Big 12 will only get their champion in the playoff. But great start by Iowa State, and obviously, Kansas State, they're not out of it, but you never want to start with a loss.
The aftermath of that game with Avery Johnson's dad and his brother, that feels like a unique scenario right there.
Yeah, it's unique. I mean, again, everyone loves it on Twitter, but what does that mean for the Kansas State moving forward? Absolutely nothing. I'm sure that's not the first time something like that's happened.
Right.
But now with everybody having a camera phone, it's going to blow up. But yeah, it's not a good look, certainly. But I'm guessing that won't be the last or the worst thing we see that happens after a game between fans or fan bases. So it's only week 0.
do you
Wait
think
for week 1?
Yeah, we were just talking about this, and I know it could be the combination of passionate fans. I'm sure alcohol works into some of these situations. Do you think college football has like the most combustible fans?
Oh yeah.
Yes, but I'd put an asterisk by soccer fans that literally throw smoke bombs onto the field.
That's a very fair point.
Yeah, we don't have fences around the fields yet for college football games, but certainly, look, that's why I love college football, and that's why I hate that college football is becoming more like the NFL. And I'm not talking about playing players. I'm just talking about the rules regarding the timing plays, and they want the game to continually speed up, and 2-minute warnings and all this. I don't want NFL light. I love the college game for all the oddities and weird stuff that you mentioned. Don't change that, or I think we lose a lot.
Now, I know a lot of people are talking about the SEC expansion to the 9-conference game schedule, but what I want to talk about is the quote that you got from an ACC AD. I'm going to read the quote, and you tell me if that sounds correct and what you think about that. So the ACC, it's mathematically impossible for a 17-team ACC to play 9 league games. So how are they going to figure it out? And you had an AD tell you we have the highest rated academic schools of any Power 4 conference. We'll figure it out. Does that sound right? And how do you suppose they'll figure it out?
No, that's an accurate quote. I mean, I quoted him accurately, and it's kind of like a smug flex by the ACC.
For sure.
Saying we're smarter than you. And you know what? They are. So whether that translates into a national championship this year in football, we'll find out. But certainly, hey, the ACC can flex their brains as much as possible. There's some challenges on figuring out what you want to do because, yeah, you can't have 17 teams play 9 games because the math doesn't work. One way that you can do it is have 12 of the 17 play 9 games, and then the remaining 5 conference teams play 8 games, and then for their 9th conference game, ACC plays 5 games a year against Notre Dame. You have the game against Notre Dame count as an ACC game in the league standings. That way you can get the 9 for everybody. Obviously, that's not going to be equal for everybody. That's one way to do it. You could actually have, is it fair? Yeah, well, it's when you have 16, 17, 18 team conferences, the schedules are never fair anyway. But that's one way to do it. That's the easy way to do it. Will they end up with that? I don't know. Like I said, they already play Notre Dame 5 games a year. You just simply count that game against Notre Dame as a league game because remember the COVID season, Notre Dame was a quasi ACC member that year.
Right.
So that's one way to do it. The difference between the SEC and the ACC going to 9 is the SEC going to 9, they add more value to their media rights deal because they're adding another conference game that ESPN did not have. By the ACC doing that, yes, they add another conference game. It doesn't have the same amount of value as the SEC game. Sorry, ACC fans, that's the reality of it. But if you say that, well, the Notre Dame game counts as an ACC game, that adds value, right? Actually, it doesn't because those games are already scheduled. So you're not adding additional games against Notre Dame. You're just simply calling it something different. So that's why it's not, 100% sure on how the ACC will get to this 9-game format. But the good news is by doing this, we're certainly a step closer to having a 16-team playoff. If the Big Ten will come off their I'm going to die on this hill and require automatic qualifiers, then I think we'll get to a 16-team playoff in 2026.
Ooh. Talk with Brett McMurphy right here on 105.3 The Fan. Do you think if you crack the ACC formula for the schedule and getting more media rights money, they will let you into their brain trust of intelligence?
No, I'm an Oklahoma State grad, so I wouldn't qualify, and I admit that openly. But I'd appreciate it. Maybe they'll make me an honorary.
An emeritus,
academic honoree or whatever they call it. Sure.
Now, for the SEC, in addition to the 9-game conference schedule, also next year, SEC teams required to have at least one non-league power conference opponent. This feels like a little bit of a shift, or am I off on that?
No, it is, and that's the thing. I was at SEC Media Days, in Atlanta. I was in Big Ten Media Days in Las Vegas, and every Big Ten coach, it's literally like they had an implant in them where you press the button and they all said the same thing. Well, we played 9 games, and the SEC only plays 8, so why would we want to do the college football playoff the same as them? Yada, yada, yada. Well, the SEC said, okay, we'll take that nonsense and we'll trump you by not only are we going to play 9, but now we're going to require our teams to play a 10th conference game. No, you're right. It's different. It's huge. And also, if the SEC does this, now you force the Big Ten to do it because the Big Ten's been belly aching about the conference schedules are different. So now that the SEC is saying, okay, you want us to play 9? We're not only going to play 9, we're going to play 10. So I think the Big Ten will then follow suit. And then I also think the Big 12 and the ACC will follow suit. So then we'll have the 4 power conferences all playing 10 power league conference games. Now, what will be fascinating to see is what does Notre Dame do? Look, Notre Dame's isn't being forced into a conference. They will stay an independent until the end of time. I truly believe that. But will Notre Dame feel pressure to have to schedule 10 power conference opponents? Because right now they don't do that. Certainly they won't be forced to do that by the playoff. That would be a choice by them because, of course, they only have to play 12 games and never have to play a conference championship game.
How much trouble is Frank Reich in Stanford after losing that? Or is it just that weird things happen in Honolulu? Is that how it goes?
He's done after this year.
Okay.
That's how much trouble he's in. But this is a 1-year deal anyway. So he's a placeholder, if you will. Andrew Luck made that clear. I talked to Frank at ACC spring meetings, and he's like, "Yeah, this is a 1-year deal." Came in to help Andrew and help Stanford, and tough loss for them. They had the game won, and they're running the ball down Hawaii's throat. Then they throw a little pass, and it's intercepted, and everything changes. But Frank's not there long term. So the old adage, "You can't fire me, I quit." He's done. He's done after this season. No matter if they would have went 12-0 or 0-12.
It feels natural that all of us will maybe have a more vested interest in North Carolina football than usual. Yeah. I know you're locked in on all the programs, but I'll admit I am more interested in North Carolina football by far than usual. And then we get news this morning that they will also be the focus of a Hulu show as we go along the way during the season. What are realistic expectations, I guess, for the Tar Heels?
Well, to put it in perspective, I think their projected win total is like 7.5. So basically, the experts are saying they'll win between either 7 or 8 games. I think that's realistic. I actually don't think they're going to win 8 games. I think they'll win below 7. They'll win 7 or fewer games. To put it in perspective, TCU opened the year as a 3-point underdog against North Carolina because a lot of the hype surrounding Bill Belichick. And now, as we get closer to kickoff, TCU's now, I think, a 3.5-point favorite.
Wow.
So I think people have looked a little bit closer at the rosters and what exactly is going on there. And, look, it's going to be different but similar to the, car wreck, like can't take your eyes off Colorado situation with Deion in year one, with Belichick in North Carolina. And so, whether you can say they were relevant before or whether they're relevant now, I don't know, but certainly they're going to be must-watch TV to see what happens with Belichick at the college level. But I just think, with the additions they made, I don't see them getting to double-digit wins. I don't see them as a college football playoff team. I think they're going to be somewhere around 500. But still, like Colorado was Deion's first year when they won 3 games, they were the most talked about 3-win team in the history of college football.
Right.
North Carolina is probably going to be the most talked about, 500 team in college football this season.
Well, there's a reason you're America's college football insider. Thank you very much for all of the info. We would love to have you on again anytime.
Hey, you got it, guys, and I'll let you know when the ACC puts me in that accident.